I've been learning that I don't like bitterness. I'm ready to just get on with it. Like this whole thing, like it's one thing to be, we've been talking about patience a lot, but I know that I really struggle with hanging on to the past. Like, and I watch this quarterback, Baker Mayfield, in the NFL. I see so many parallels between him and I where he's had rejection and been overlooked and it's hard for him. And I've been rejected and had, people overlook me. And I had this high school coach that didn't want me to play quarterback for him. And that pissed me off and fired me up. And it motivated me for years until that flame died and didn't matter anymore. And then I had a college coach who didn't believe in me and didn't want me. And I had a girlfriend reject me. And there's all these, like, rejection hurts, but I don't want to hang on to it anymore. I want to just let the bitterness go. And I don't want to be bitter about the past. I want to just accept that, hey, that was a chapter in my life. And really, like, the coach rejecting me in high school, the coach rejecting me in college, the girlfriend, like, all those experiences make me a better person. And I've learned tremendous lessons from them, and accepting that actually they were good, the struggle was good, and not hanging on to the bitterness is going to be, it's something I've really worked hard to accept and hard to do. And I wanted to share that and just have a discussion about that because I've been really working hard to let go of bitterness from the past.
Well, you're conflating two things I don't think need to be conflated. Losses do not equate to bitterness.
Sure. Okay.
You can have losses and grieve them and not be bitter.
Yeah.
It's quite possible. And you're going to have challenges in your life, whether it's something that a challenge can either be a loss or it can be something that's causing you to think in a different way that you ever thought before. And those challenges are going to make you either bitter or better. And it takes time because maybe you have to work through the bitterness to get to the betterness.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to happen. And so you told me we might talk about being bitter. And so I looked it up in dictionary.com.
UrbanDictionary.com.
I've started at dictionary.com.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it was okay. But then I thought, what the heck? This is one of Zach's crazy podcasts. I can go to Urban Dictionary. And here's right at the top, bitter. To be perpetually pissed off.
Yeah.
And if you're pissed off, in my head, that means you're kind of angry.
Yeah.
And what is the primary emotion? Anger is a secondary emotion. What's the primary emotion beneath anger?
Sadness and pain.
Sadness and hurt. And often it's easier, instead of grieving and leaning into our loss, it's easier to get pissed off and this be angry. And then you hold that close to you at night to keep you warm. And then that kind of grows into bitterness.
And I think bitter is just no longer a thing I want to motivate me anymore. And it's really interesting. I did a topic about Baker Mayfield the other day. I said the topic's called Baker Mayfield's Bitter. And I talked about how the story you tell yourself really matters. When I was in a college dorm room, literally getting made fun of by people, it was easy to say, fuck you, I don't care, I'm going to make my Strong Opinion Sports channel, do my thing. But now that I have over 100,000 subscribers, I have my own place, I have this incredible room to record in, that story that I'm overlooked and that nobody cares about me, nobody believes in me, doesn't work anymore. I had to learn to tell myself a new story. And so when I got in this place for like a week, I couldn't do any work because the story in my head didn't line up anymore and I felt like a loser. It was so weird. And so I have had to tell myself a new story and move forward. I don't know why I got on this topic, but I just remember the parallel between me and Baker Mayfield. I was like, he's clearly hanging on to stuff. I don't want to hang on to that stuff anymore. I want to learn and tell myself a new story.
And you can be motivated without being motivated by saying fuck you to the people that didn't believe in you.
It doesn't need to have anger behind it.
It doesn't. Now, it feels good. My sweetheart, she says I have a chip on my shoulder and sometimes...
It's vindicating.
Yeah, because fuck you told me I'd never be a published author. No fucking way. I am. So fuck all you all. I mean, I have that kind of in there, but it's better to let it go. And it's a better way to live to not be bitter. Yeah. But if you're going to be bitter, you got to figure out why you're bitter. And usually there's some anger. Under the anger, some sadness. And then there's some losses you have to grieve. I hear a common theme among all of these things that make you bitter. I hear someone not believing you in rejection, someone not believing you in rejection, someone not believing you in rejection. Is it possible that rejection is a trigger for you?
Absolutely. I think I have kind of a sick attraction to rejection. When I get rejected, I go, because here's what happened, right? In high school, my coach overlooked me, and I said, fuck that guy. I'm going to prove him wrong. And I went to a different high school, and everything for 2 years was about proving that coach wrong.
The old coach at the other high school.
Yes, the old, and I was like, in the weight room, on the football field, everything was about, F that guy, he's wrong. I made the playoffs. I went to college and played quarterback. He was fucking wrong. And so for me, it was like, and then what's funny though is the minute I got to college, this whole journey for 2 years was about proving that coach wrong. The minute I got to college, that flame died and burned out because I was like, I'm no longer motivated by that guy. I proved him wrong already, and I lost all my motivation. That's exactly what happened when my freshman year of college playing quarterback. my thing that motivated me for 2 years no longer worked, and I didn't have the skills at that time to understand that or to deal with that or to figure out what to find a new motivation. It just didn't work anymore.
So why is rejection such a trigger for you?
Oh man. I mean, do you really want to? It's just painful. It's we can. How honest do you want me to be about it? Because
That's up to you.
You know, man, I don't think it's caring to go there.
Okay, but you've dealt with some rejection.
I had deep rejection early in my life,
And you have that's a wound in you.
yeah.
Yep. So my dad taught me early on that to work really hard, I'd never be good enough. And that I'd never get the work done. And that became a wound that every time I encountered a similar situation, it hurt me even worse because that's where the heartache could get in. It's kind of like an open window to your heart. The pain comes right into that open window. And
I think I'm going to say it. I think it's because I think it is like my brain is to be open and honest. And I think that.
And how you felt and what you happened doesn't mean you can't have a different thing now.
Yeah. And I'm working on it. And I've talked on Even Strong Opinion Sports before about my relationship with my mom has been a really painful one for a long time, and I didn't feel loved by my mom.
And you felt rejected by her.
Yeah, and so I think that really, when I got rejected by my ex-girlfriend especially, it was like...
It triggered all that.
It's the same feeling I had as a child when I felt like my mom didn't love me.
So maybe, crazy idea, maybe you could go to a counselor and you could talk about your heartache related to your mom so that the next time you experience rejection, it can be not your mom rejecting you all over again, not feeling unloved and unwanted by your mom, but just that situation. And you can decouple those.
Yeah.
Because
it won't be as triggering.
Yeah, and then the counselor, a good counselor, when you do lots of journaling, do you have any journals, any books you could write in?
I have like 40. I'm going to cut you off first, though. I remember It's funny how I didn't put two and two together that way until I'm glad we had this conversation. It's even crazier and cooler we're filming because other people can learn from it too. But that it's not feeling love; it's feeling unappreciated and not wanted. I could not believe at my last college that my coach didn't want me, didn't believe in me. He chose another guy. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You chose that quarterback instead of me? You." And I just felt like, how can you not see what I bring to the table? How can you not appreciate my leadership, who I am, my attitude, my work ethic, my abilities, literally throwing the football? I was like, how? And it just felt so painful that he didn't not only like didn't want me, but he wanted this other guy instead. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, and that's why I left. Like, that's really like. The rejection was like, I'm not dealing with this. Fuck this.
And that was the deep wound.
Yeah, I was like, you can't see what I have?
Well, and the other thing, just on the practical side, you may never play college football.
Yeah.
But one of the benefits of leaving when you did is you saved 3 years of eligibility.
Yeah, if I ever wanted to play now, I still can.
And part of what
I
you
would
were
have burned eligibility if I'd stayed.
you say it burned a whole year of eligibility.
Yeah.
And at that point in your journey, back in fall of 2019, you were thinking, wow, if I'm going to go to a school, I'd rather be able to say to them,
I have 3 years of eligibility.
I can be here for 3 years and invest in, and I'm not saying that's what you're going to do,
Yeah.
but that was your thinking at that moment is, I have this incredible turmoil and pain and rejection and being unwanted. And why would I'll come back to that in a second, but you had that. And then you had the ability to think, hey, I'm better off for another team if I have 3 years of eligibility.
Yeah, it was both.
But why would you stay at a place where you're not wanted?
You shouldn't. Nobody should. It doesn't make sense. That's what we're getting. This is not a sports podcast, but I see this coach Jerry. The owner of the Cowboys is Jerry Jones, and their head coach is Jason Garrett. And it's like everyone's waiting in limbo for them to fire Jason Garrett. I don't know why Jason Garrett's staying. He's clearly not wanted. And when you're not wanted by someone, it's better to just go find someone who wants you.
Well, even worse, he's not succeeding.
Yeah.
I like Jason Garrett as a person.
He seems like a good man.
Seems like a great guy, but he's not succeeding, and he's just staying. It's not going to get better.
Yeah.
I mean, Einstein, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. He's not going to succeed. But back to it, I had the sense that you weren't wanted by that coach.
Yeah. I did too.
The coach told you, I didn't recruit you in the summer. Yeah. I mean, I didn't in the summer. The coach told you, I didn't recruit you. I recruited the other 2 guys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
He literally said, I didn't recruit you. I recruited these 2 guys. That's why they're ahead of you on the depth chart.
And so why would you stay in a place where the person making the decisions about who's going to be quarterback when you want to be a quarterback doesn't want you? Why would you do that?
You wouldn't. And you wouldn't burn eligibility. So it was multifaceted, right? It doesn't make sense to stay here with someone who doesn't believe in me. Because I remember the pain of chasing my ex-girlfriend, right, for 5 years. It's not fun to be chasing the approval of somebody else who just doesn't want you. It's not a fulfilling, and I now that I think about it that way, like, I knew from that experience with that girl that the experience of that coach was not going to, I could have stayed and maybe waited for guys to get hurt or waited for him to like finally want me, but he didn't want me. And to not see that was like, I'm done.
Then you would have been the person he had to turn to when other people got hurt, not the person he wanted. And
Yes.
you wanted, right, wrong, or indifferent.
I wanted to be wanted.
You wanted to be a place where you wanted. And if someone may say that's stupid, but that's what you were at. You wanted to be where you wanted. You wanted to be a place that wanted you.
Yeah.
That guy didn't want you.
And so I left to save eligibility to go, if I ever find a school that does want me, I have 3 years of eligibility rather than 2. I saved a year of eligibility. I saved a lot of heartache. It was the right move for me to leave.
And then the third thing that kind of comes up that I remember is I got a lot of calls from you during, whatever they call that in August, practice and stuff. And
Fall training camp.
Things went certain ways, certain days, and then pretty soon things went downhill a lot. And you'd call me, after practice, and we'd process stuff.
This doesn't make the things I'm being told and what's happening don't add up.
And it started to be like there is a philosophy of how to handle quarterbacks that didn't match yours. And I'm not saying that philosophy is right or wrong.
Yeah.
But you're pretty opinionated about quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think I know what I'm talking about with quarterbacks.
And how to handle them, and the way that philosophy wasn't a fit with yours. And if that's a bad fit there, that also is another reason for why would you stay where it's a bad fit with that philosophy. And I'm not saying that person's philosophy does or doesn't work. Time will tell.
We'll see in 5 years
We'll
if
see in
his
5 years.
philosophy of working with quarterbacks and running an offense works.
Yeah, and great, and I hope it does, because I love that school, and I love that program, and I love that head coach. What an incredible human being, the head coach.
I think that's really the hard part of being rejection, right? Is when you're with a girl, you're like, this girl's awesome, and she doesn't want me. That's painful. And when you're at a school that academics works, you love the head coach, you love your teammates. There's all these things you love, and yet you're still not wanted by this one person that you're rejected by. It's like, it feels like an incredibly painful missed opportunity.
Well, it was difficult for me because at WSU,
my old college,
old college, you the professors mocked you and said you would never make money on YouTube.
Yeah.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, I'm not, and I knew right away. Okay, I'm not going to stay at Washington State because the professors in the communication college told me I couldn't make money on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a terrible communication. In my opinion,
awful.
Having built a brand, if you want to build a brand or seed in communications, do not go currently to WSU.
Well,
they don't know what they're doing. They have old equipment. I don't like it. I've seen some of the things they do to those kids, and it pulls my hair
Here's
out.
what they teach you. They teach you how to work in local news. If you don't want to work in local news, it's not for you. There's only one avenue that's good for you there. It's only if you want to work for Billings, Montana, local news station. Otherwise, don't go to that school.
Yeah, but maybe they should hire someone to teach kids how to build a good brand. Because like some of those
they don't
kids,
care about that. They want to teach people how to be employees rather than
But some of your
run a brand.
classmates from back then, I'd look at their Instagram and go, oh my gosh, how come no one's told them how their Instagram is hurting their brand? Anyways, that's a tangent. But then, so I had a heartache there.
So that old college didn't want me. It was
Not
like,
only that,
it was a bad fit academically.
But then you had a bug professor. You had to take some, for reasons I don't understand, a class about bugs, whatever. Fine. And you actually told me you were excited to learn about bugs. And I'm like,
I was curious.
What the hell happened to you? Who pickled your brain? Bugs. Okay, whatever. But then you'd have to listen to the professor spend a half hour talking about nonsense, right?
Yeah, like I like science. One of my favorite classes of all time is environmental science. I also love astronomy. I love learning about the world, and I really wanted to learn. Okay, let's learn about these unique bugs, and there's facts, and I can memorize things, and I was so excited for all that. And we never got that. We'd have an hour and a half lecture and talk for an hour about random bullshit that was not related to bugs at all, and it drove me nuts to sit in class.
Didn't he talked about his dog?
He talked about his fucking dog, and I was like, dude, I am sitting here in class when I want to work on strong opinion sports in my dorm room, and this is not a good use of my time at all. This hour out of an hour and a half lecture is just wasted, and it perpetually frustrated me.
Yeah, and at one time at WSU, and I'm getting lead you to something, you had to do a program where start a business. You're like, well, I have a business. And like, oh, can't use that one. But then you get to the school you recently left, and the professors you loved, the classes you loved, the things you were teaching and learning actually applied in the real world. Their communications program kicked ass and was on target and perceptive, and they got it. And they knew that YouTube was a thing, and it was such a joy to me to hear you actually loving learning.
I was excited about my classes because my professor said, we like what you're doing. We don't want to get in your way. We want to help you build your YouTube channel rather than not believing in you. They encouraged it.
And shitting on you and saying you'll never succeed and et cetera. And you just have a blog.
Yeah. They clearly...
Which is what they said at WSU.
Can I say the name of the school?
No, I don't want to.
Okay. But
I don't know why.
The professors of that school were great. My most recent school.
Yeah, and the big stuff was amazing. I mean, the learning stuff and the programs. And I was so excited. So for me, it was hard when, we have a good fit almost everywhere, but in this one situation, you're not wanted.
There's this one guy that doesn't want me.
And that's the primary reason you were there, right, wrong, or different.
Yeah.
And so that's part of why we left. So I think we were talking about bitterness.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's okay though. That's this show. It's a starting point to lead into other things. But I think maybe the main point is that I clearly struggle with holding on to all that anger and all that pain, and I don't want to be mad at the professors at Washington State. I don't want to be mad at the professors. And not that coach from that old college. I don't want to be mad at my old high school coach.
You don't want to have bitterness toward that old coach.
Yeah, I'm ready to be just done with it.
So here's a question, and we haven't rehearsed this, so it's a little bit dangerous to ask.
Go ahead. I don't.
Karen says ask leading questions, but oh well.
Don't worry about her.
She's
a hater.
Oh my God.
Your wife's a hater. She's not. She's a wonderful human.
She is a tremendous
we
help.
have a podcast together. I have a podcast with your wife.
Anyways, do you think the coach didn't want you as a bad guy?
No, I think he means well.
No, I don't think he's
I don't
a bad
wanna
guy.
hate him.
I don't think he's a bad guy at all. Neither one of us think he's a bad guy. I think we
just
see the
didn't
world
agree.
differently.
Yeah.
And we have different perspectives on certain topics. And you're not convinced that his perspective on certain topics will produce the kind of fruit that he might want.
No.
But we'll see. But we're not saying he's a bad guy.
Yeah, and I don't want to live my life for the next 40 years hating him.
With bitterness.
I just don't want to be that way.
So the way that you deal with that, anyone watching, the way you deal with bitterness is you get to the heartache that beneath it. You have beneath the bitterness is anger, beneath the anger is heartache, and you lean into it and grieve it.
Yeah.
And then in your case, you have some sensitivity because you have an unhealed, unaddressed wound from your childhood that you still haven't healed. And have you ever had a thorn in your foot?
Yeah.
You've been walking around metaphorically with a thorn in your foot
For like
since
15 years.
Yeah, and you need to go get that thorn removed, and because it's going to hinder you. Every time you enter a tough situation, you're going to have the wound of the present and the wound of the past. It's like a double punch. Every time you get one punch, it's a double punch.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that the huge takeaway from this, if you're listening, is that you're not just mad. The root of anger is pain and sadness. And it takes more, it's easy to be angry. It takes more work to dig into what hurt made me angry. Because if you're angry, it's usually just because you're not dealing with the pain and the sadness you really have. And again, I can't say it enough. It takes work. I've done tremendous journaling, tremendous having conversations with people, trying to get the root of why am I mad about this? Why and what's the root of the anger? What sadness caused the anger? Because the anger is me avoiding rather than dealing.
But a lot of people don't even have those questions. Those are important questions. If you find yourself bitter or you find yourself angry, to know, if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, just know that ask yourself, why do I have this bitterness? Why do I have this anger? What's the heartache beneath it? And now you're onto something. And then for some situations, you need, if you're listening to this podcast, to go see a counselor to get some help.